Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Danish on the home side, half American on the away side. Both of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel before, albeit the Danish one far more frequently than the American one. But I've had good beers from both of these breweries, in fact, and I would count the Danish brewery as one of my favourite Danish breweries. Back in the day, they were one of my favourite breweries in the world, actually, when I first encountered them. But yeah, so many good breweries out there these days. You know, the standard of beer, generally speaking, has gone up so much. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is one that has featured on the channel before. I did an out and about review of this with my friend Peter over at Master of Hoppets. We had a look at this beer together, which was really fun, and it's also a favourite of one of my long-term subscribers as well. So a big shout out to Jesse Holden over in Chicago. We drank one of these together when he was over here in Scandinavia too. So yeah, nice to finally get around to doing a proper sit down review of this. So I know it's a good beer and I think I'm going to enjoy this review. So hopefully it makes for an interesting review for you guys. And as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So let's crack on and see how we go. So for this review then, we are going to cross the Øresund once again and go to Copenhagen in Denmark, one of the best beer cities in the world these days in my opinion. And we're going to have a look at another beer from Amager Bryghus. So this particular beer is called Todd the Axeman. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and this one is an old school West Coast IPA. It's brewed in collaboration with Surly Brewing Company, who are from Minneapolis in Minnesota, over in the American Midwest. And I've only had one beer from them before, and I think that was about 2.5 years ago that we reviewed that one. It was a kind of Imperial Pils or something like that, an Imperial Lager, an IPL, something like that, if memory serves me correctly. But Amager Bryghus, of course, have featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really great beers from these guys over the years. Batch 1000, of course, is a firm favourite of mine, and I would say also the Herr Fredriksson. Those are two of the really old school beers that they do, but they're still firm favourites of mine. And this is actually one of the older beers that they do as well, but one that they keep rebrewing, so it's definitely worth trying if you get the chance. But yeah, this should be really nice actually. I know this is a good beer. Shout out as well to Jessica once again from the Beer Hive in Amager in Copenhagen. That's where this beer was bought. Lovely little shop. She's very nice, knowledgeable about her beer as well, so do make sure you go and give her some support. She's probably going to become my sort of unofficial Danish supplier for the channel, I guess we could say as well. So yeah, I definitely will go and visit there again at some point soon. But yeah, let's go for it and see how we go. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Amager Bryghus and from Surly Brewing Company, and hopefully we can add more to both of those lists at some point in the near future, although obviously more likely for Amager Bryghus. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Danish beers that I've reviewed for you, and another one for all the American beers. This one will appear in both of those lists because it is dual nationality. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Amager Bryghus first off then, since these guys are the home brewery. So Amager Bryghus, as I've told you before, are based in Kastrup in the southern part of Copenhagen in Denmark, and these guys are probably one of the best known Danish craft breweries. So the brewery was established back in April of 2007 by two friends, Morten Valentin Lundsbach and Jakob Storm, who were both avid home brewers. But apparently in school the pair were forced to do a chemistry and physics project together, so they wrote about the fermentation process that went on in beers, and this really just had them hooked from the outset. But both gained their brewing diplomas from the Scandinavian Brewing School in 2008, and the company has gone on to become very highly decorated since then. But their first brewery was located in Tornby, in the southern part of the city, and they've just been constantly expanding over the last couple of years. They had to buy a whole new brewing kit in 2011, which took their capacity up to around 250,000 litres of beer per year, but they managed to get it up to around 400,000 litres eventually in their first brewery. But they moved to a new site closer to the airport in 2018, which has doubled their capacity, and they opened up their tap house bar in Copenhagen next to Nørreport station in March of 2019, and that is where I tried this beer originally. First off, I tried it with Jesse from the States that I mentioned, and then I filmed the Out and About video at the Amager Bryghus tap room with Peter, the master of hoppets, and that is the most recent time that I've had this. But they opened up another bar in I think that actually might have been early 2020 that it opened. There's another bar called Brewed, which you'll find in the Amager area in southern Copenhagen. But as of December 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 310 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and I've no idea how many reviews I've done from this brewery now. It must be in the region of about 20 or so, but I really like the beers that these guys have done. When I first encountered this brewery, it was a lot of really good, old school West Coast IPAs that they were doing, things like Arctic Sunstone Batch 1000 had just been released for the first time as well. These beers were really pretty awesome actually. I'm trying to remember the names of some of the other ones. Winter in Bangalore was one that I really enjoyed as well. I remember that one. But I'd say the two or three classic beers that you really need to try from these guys, it would be the Batch 1000 if you can get it, the Bastard Princess, which was the first New England IPA that they did, and also the Amager Bryghus Herr Fredriksson. That's one of the classic Danish imperial stouts, and as I've told you in many reviews, it's very difficult, I think, to beat the Scandinavian imperial stouts. Just the mouthfeel and everything is just perfect actually. But yeah, Amager Bryghus, one of the best known Danish craft breweries, and definitely worth checking out if you haven't managed to do so already. But that's all I can really tell you about them for the moment. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So anyway, on to the American side of the Brewery Notes then, to Surly Brewing Company. So Surly Brewing Company, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Minneapolis in Minnesota, and they were founded back in 2005 by Omar Ansari. So he had been home brewing since 1994, and he apprenticed at the New Holland Brewing Company in Michigan later on. They, if I remember correctly, are known for their Dragon's Milk Imperial Stout, which is a lovely, lovely beer. But he recruited Todd Haug as his brewmaster, and then they started brewing in Brooklyn Center. But over the next few years, the brewery continued to expand, and by 2012 they were producing 21,000 barrels, which went on to grow to 50,000 barrels per year by 2015. But in 2011, the brewery announced that they were wanting to open a brew pub in Minneapolis, but the laws in Minnesota really prohibited sales of beer on brewing premises. But they worked closely with the state government to enable changes that would allow brew pubs to exist within the state, and it's been a great success from what I understand. There has been a little bit of a boom in the Minnesota brewing industry. But after this, they purchased an 8.3 acre plot in Prospect to build a new $20 million brewery, which opened in December of 2014. But today the brewery in Brooklyn Center operates a 30 barrel brewing system, and the one in Minneapolis operates a 100 barrel system. So they are quite a big scale brewery in fact. And when I was in Iowa, I think it was when I went to my friend's wedding in Iowa that I got the Surly beer to review for you. There was quite a heavy presence there as well, so they are quite a big scale brewery in terms of the American craft market, if you like. But as of December 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced about 475 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and they've got an on-site tap room at both breweries, and they also serve pizza at their Minneapolis brewery as well. So that is all I can really tell you about Surly Brewing Company. I'm sure I will go and visit that at some point, because I will need to go out and visit my friend in Iowa again at some point. In Minneapolis, I believe, is the closest place to fly to. So I'm sure we'll get an out and about video at Surly Brewing Company at some point in the future. But yeah, that's everything I can tell you about Surly Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So that is it for your history section. Let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer itself. So just to let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up, as you can see, it's pretty damn good. The name of this beer, of course, comes from Todd Haug, the main man when it comes to the brewing over at Surly Brewing Company. It's very heavy metal as well. So I'm guessing Todd is probably into his heavy metal, and I know the guys at Amager Bryghus are into their heavy metal as well. Black top on the can there, as you usually get from Amager Bryghus, and of course you've got the wonderful blog on the side, the blurb on the side here, I should say. So yeah, so for quite some time, the Amager crew has been discussing this question: which person is the most rock and roll in the world, in the whole of craft beer world? Is it Barnaby Struve of Three Floyds, or is it Todd Haug of Surly Brewing? In the end, it wasn't really all that difficult to decide, since only Todd has played for Laura Dern in a David Lynch movie. Yeah, Nicolas Cage was in that same movie, but since when did he count? And Todd plays the guitar in both a speed metal band and a stoner band. Add to that Todd and his wife Linda are some of the nicest people to hang out with. So Todd, here's to you, Todd the Axeman, a potent IPA loaded with fresh American Aroma hops and a base of rich British Golden Promise malt, Surly's signature malt. Raise a glass to Todd, a world-class brewer and master of the axe. Bonus facts about Todd: yes, he did actually have a perm in his younger days. His wife Linda confirms, and he does indeed love cats an awful lot. So yeah, that is pretty cool. So it tells you you always get this with Amager Bryghus beers, which I really love. You always get here the malt, the malts that are in it, and also the hops. So this one has British Golden Promise malt, or English Golden Promise. I don't think we produce that in Scotland, but the hops in this one are Columbus, Mosaic and Citra. We know these hops quite well. Columbus, about 12% alpha acid, nice kind of big spicy floral note to that, usually used as a bittering hop. Mosaic, of course, we know 14% alpha acid, lovely juicy kind of tangerine notes. Citra, of course, 14% alpha acid as well, usually big mango qualities, but also quite a big citrusy, zesty character as well there. But yeah, as you can see, really nice. It doesn't actually have any insignia from Surly Brewing Company on it anymore, but back in the day, you always used to get the Danish flags at the side of Amager Bryghus along with the American flags on these collaborations. So they have changed the label of this one slightly, but there you can see the Amager Bryghus artwork, which is pretty nice. It used to have a tap on it, actually, so they have kind of rebranded their branding a little bit, I guess we could say, over the last little while. But yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. A 6.5% West Coast IPA. So we are. And from what Jessica in Beer Hive told me, this is a very fresh batch as well, so I'm drinking this I think within about 2 weeks or so of it being canned, so that's pretty cool. And of course I have tried it on tap, so probably that's even fresher. But yeah, ooh. I don't remember it looking like this when we tried it before. Yeah. That's interesting. We'll just put the rest of it in, why not? So, yeah, I don't remember this beer looking like that. It used to be, I could have sworn when I tried this with Peter, it was a little bit more kind of amber and things, rather than, it looks very much like a New England IPA, this, which I was not expecting, I have to say. But anyway, wasn't quite expecting that. Yeah, caught me off guard for sure. So, yeah, anyway, as you can see, this beer has poured a little bit more like a New England IPA. So you can see that when we poured it, it poured with about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would say, kind of cream coloured head. That has just faded away to be a nice kind of thin foamy layer, but you have got a nice kind of ring just around the edge of the glass. But there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side there, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of that head. But I mean, overall, it does look pretty nice, I have to say. So yeah, in terms of the colour of this one, I think it's fair to say that this beer is a bit more of, it is a little bit more of a kind of New Englandy kind of rich. I'd say it's like a kind of mixed tropical fruit juice, this one, to be honest with you. So you can see that there, yeah, it's got that lovely kind of rich mixed tropical kind of fruit juice quality to it. It looks pretty nice in that sense. So you get a lovely, you do get a lovely little bit of a, it is a kind of ambery leaning one, and of course remember the colour of your beer depends on on the malt varieties that you're using. That goes a long way to determining the EBC rating of the beer. 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do, or any adjuncts that you put into the beer, that's also going to affect the colour of it. But when it comes to these, IPAs, you don't really have to care about that. It's mainly for, Berliner Weisses and Goses and the barrel aged sours that you have to care about that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm just still mystified as to how this thing is quite as hazy as it is. Because the level of haze that you've got in this, if we talked about this in the context of a New England IPA for a 6.5%er, the level of haze that has is pretty damn impressive. And usually in those beers, it's down to the oat content, the wheat content, and the yeast. But yeah, this I think is really quite interesting. I do not remember this beer looking like this when we tried it before. I remember it definitely being more kind of amber and clear for sure. So yeah, without having oat and wheat and things in this, I'm a bit mystified as to how you can get it that hazy. I mean, obviously you don't filter the beer in some respects, but even so, maybe they just haven't filtered this batch or something. I honestly don't know. I did not expect it to appear like this. So yeah, definitely nice kind of ambery leaning orangey colour, kind of akin to mixed tropical fruit juice, I guess we could say. But yeah, I like how this one goes together for sure. So I think we should take a look at the aroma now and see how we got on, since we've gotten over the initial appearance of this. So let's just look at it. So yeah, aroma wise, it does come across really nicely. First impression of it is that it's quite smooth, but it's quite a soft and just juicy. It's just a kind of soft and juicy IPA, but it really does smell a little bit more like a New England, come to think of it. So we need to see. I don't know, maybe they've decided to keep this label and change the recipe a little bit, but if they did that, I'm sure they would update the I'm sure they would have updated the contents and things like that. So maybe they haven't, maybe it is just unfiltered, but yeah. On the nose though, it comes across as really smooth and really soft and juicy actually, so it's pretty damn good. So the backbone of this beer, absolutely, you get a little bit of bread crust out of it, for sure. You get that little bit of bread crusty backbone, a lot of nice kind of smooth, fresh, white bready character in there. On top of that, you have the I would say you've got a little bit of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. So I really like how that goes together. Actually, it was Golden Promise, wasn't it? Was it? Yeah, Golden Promise. That is a very popular malt to use in New England IPAs for sure. I think Apex Fermenterana and Duck Pond and all these guys, Stigberts as well, they love a little bit of Golden Promise. So it really does, in a lot of ways, it does smell like a New England IPA, and it makes sense. When you think about it, when it's using that malt that is so popular, it kind of makes sense that the appearance of this one is like that. But as I say, I could swear when I've had this before, it hasn't been anywhere near this level of hazy. But yeah, but the malty backbone, it's quite straight up. When you've only got one malt in there, that makes sense. You've got a little bit of bread crust on the backbone, a good little bit of white bread in there, but you've also got a nice wee bit of a McVitie's digestive kind of biscuit sort of thing to it there. There's almost a wee touch of like a Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type sweetness coming out to this one. But these are characteristics we've picked up quite a lot from the Golden Promise malt in the past and the New England IPAs that we've had. But yeah, let's look at the hoppy side of things. I don't think there's much else we need to say about the malty backbone of this one. So I will say the green component of this one, again, does come across a little bit more like a New England IPA, which is a wee bit surprising. But with this one, you do get a little bit of earthiness out of it. There's a good little bit of, I feel that the green component in this one leans towards the grassy side of things. So you can smell a little touch of the spiciness of the Columbus, but from the green component of this one, I get the impression that it's using a lot of late addition hops and a lot of dry hopping. Because it just doesn't quite have the dankness, as I've told you before, New England IPAs use late addition hops and dry hopping as their main source of things, and when you've got late addition hopping, that gives you a little bit of bitterness, but mainly flavour and aroma. Dry hopping is completely flavour and aroma. Early addition hopping, which West Coast IPAs have on top of the other two, is the one that's going to give you a lot of the bitterness and a lot of the big dankness in my experience. And this one, the hoppy character in this, the green component really is more like a New England than a West Coaster. the more, if you take the aroma in a bit more deeply, you will get a wee bit of that spicy floral aromaticity from the Columbus, because Columbus is traditionally used as a bittering hop. And back in the day, Amager Bryghus, they loved to use, Tomahawk. They loved to use a little bit of Tomahawk and Zeus, and they used to use that CTZ mix, if I remember rightly. But yeah, they used to use Tomahawk, Columbus, Chinook as well. They used to love using all of these big bittering hops. And I remember, I'm pretty certain that back in the day, this beer it really comes across as more like a New England now, and almost certain that this one was never so New England in its nature actually. But yeah, the green component of this one for me really leans towards a kind of soft, grassy side of things. There's a wee bit of zestiness in there, a wee bit of floral character, and a wee bit of earthiness. And the earthiness, I think, is most likely to come from the Columbus and a little bit from the mosaic in here as well. So yeah, that's quite interesting. But I would be surprised if they've changed the recipe of this one to suit, because it's been a regular. I wouldn't be surprised if they've changed the recipe of this a little bit to suit the more modern generation of craft drinker. But I'm almost certain that they might have changed this. I don't know, though, I could be wrong, but it does still smell nice anyway. But on the fruity side of things, for me, it's quite balanced in a sense. It's got a nice juicy mangoey note to it. I don't get too much in the way of the more pungent things that you can get from Citra, but juicy mango for me, a little bit of kind of juicy tangerine orange as well, and there are little undertones of, you get little bits of apricot in there. I get a wee touch of lime out of it as well. Citra kind of, and maybe a little bit of lemon too. It's got a little bit of that lemon limey character you would expect of Citra. But yeah, this beer has just really been a surprise in terms of aroma and appearance. I did not expect this from Todd the Axeman at all. So yeah, this is one of my more surprised, one of the reviews where I've been a little bit more awestruck, I guess we could say. So yeah, taking a little bit of time to go through the first bits of the review, but let's get started on this then and see how we go. So yeah, this one is the Todd the Axeman, a 6.5% IPA from Amager Bryghus in Copenhagen and Surly Brewing Company over in Minneapolis, Minnesota, USA. Slàinte, skål, and cheers. Yeah. Now I'm going to say it is a nice beer. I'll say straight away it's a nice beer, but I do think they've changed this. I don't remember this beer being like this before. But yeah, I like it. And for a signature IPA, I think this one is pretty good, because I think you probably could describe this one as one of the signatures. The other one that I need to have a look at is the Wookiee. That's one that's been around for a long time. But yeah, this is pretty solid. But like I say, I'm pretty sure they've changed this, and I don't know why they wouldn't just release a new IPA as their signature one. But maybe it's just the popularity of this beer or whatever. Maybe it's a business decision, but I don't know. But it's a solid beer, this one. So thumbs up to Amager and Surly for this. And it is a fairly straight shooting IPA as well. And I mean, it would make sense when they're using Columbus, Citra, and Mosaic. These are hops you can get all the time. If you're going to have a sort of core range IPA, which is probably as close to core range as you're going to get from Amager Bryghus, they're going to have to use hops that are produced in big quantities like that and readily available. But yeah, I like this one. I do enjoy this. So where do we start with this then? Straight away then, we'll go with the malt base. Straight away, across the middle of your palate, you get a nice little bit of a bread crusty character out of this. You can feel that across the, just going right across the middle of your tongue and the back third of your tongue. On top of that, and if we'll focus on the middle third of your palate. So you got that little bread crusty layer. On top of that, you get a little bit of a smooth kind of white bready character in there. And then on top of that, you can feel a little bit of the kind of sweeter side of it too. So the malt base on this one actually comes across as quite crisp and quite light. And as I say, this is a very drinkable beer. So yeah, so say a little bit of bread crust, smooth white bread, and then a wee bit of sweetness, just kind of sitting on top of that. So yeah, it goes together. It does go together really quite well in a sense. And then yeah, it's almost like you've got a little on top of that kind of bready layer. You'll feel that the further you go into the aftertaste for this one, it feels that the bread just kind of densifies a little bit. But yeah, on top of that kind of bready layer, you have this. You do have this nice, this wee touch of like Werther's Original. So you can feel you've got a circle there sitting in the middle of your palate. So you've got that Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotchy kind of thing, and then as you go out toward the edge of the palate there, the edge of that middle third of your palate, it does get a little bit more of that McVitie's digestive biscuity character coming out of it. The malt base is very straight up, but when it's a single malt beer, then you would expect that, to be honest with you. But it really does feel a little bit more like a kind of New England IPA this than an old school West Coast. So I think I've told you lies when we started off the video here, but as I say, I don't remember this beer being like this. But this one is pretty nice actually. So I'll need to go back and watch Peter Master of Hoppets review this, because I think he reviewed this one back in the day. I need to go and watch his review of this and just make sure that I'm not going crazy and forgetting what this beer was like. But let's say just convinced by that. So yeah, we've covered the middle third of your palate. Let's go to the back third of the palate then. Border region between middle third and back third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of a bready build up there, a nice little bit of bread crust. Then the base of that back third of your palate, there's a little bit more of a kind of bread crusty character there. It gets a little bit more kind of grainy. You can feel the bready layer is a little bit thicker. And then on top of that, you've got the kind of yeasty character of the beer, which feels a little bit more like a kind of, it's almost like a little bit of a kind of rye, grainy bread sort of thing. So yeah, you can feel that slightly more dense bready character, a little bit more bread crusty sort of stuff on it. But yeah, I think it works really nicely. So yeah, you can feel the flavour on that back third of your palate is quite similar, but it's just a bit taller compared to the middle third of your palate. So when you start at the back of your palate, you come further forward and it just condenses down a wee bit as you go into the middle third of the palate. And there you go. So yeah, malt base of this one is nice actually, but we know this Golden Promise malt pretty well. Let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer then. So back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, you can feel the Columbus actually does come out a little bit more with this beer the more that you drink of it. And in fairness, it does have a wee bit of bitterness that is more akin to a West Coast in a way, but it takes a little bit of time for that to come out actually. So yeah, you can feel a bit of earthiness there. That will come from the Mosaic and the Columbus together, but as you move further forward, you get that nice kind of deep, spicy, floral aromatic quality out of the beer. So I really like how that goes together. So yeah, I think it is really nice how just everything pieces together in this one. So yeah, as you move further forward, you do get, as I say, a bit of earthiness, a little touch of herbal quality. Then as you push forward towards the front corners of your palate, you've got that nice big, slightly spicy floral aromaticity coming out of this one. But then as you go around the front curve of the palate, the beer is decidedly more it's decidedly lighter and more grassy and things like that. So it's quite interesting how that comes together in this one. You do get a wee touch of zestiness off it as well, but the grassy character is a little bit more kind of fresh, and it's like a fresh, wetly cut grass in a sort of way. But let's focus on the front third of your palate then. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a little bit of that bready build up in there. You can feel that nice little bit of bread crust and the bready build up. In the base of the front third of your palate is a little bit more kind of smooth and white bready. You do get a nice little bit of white bready character out of that. But on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. And yeah, I think it goes together really well. But yeah, I do like that about this one for sure. The fruity side of it is really pretty nice, and it does have a wee bit more of that kind of wetter, oily, fruity character of a West Coast. So there are West Coasty qualities in this one, but I don't know, it might just be the golden promise that makes it seem like a New England. Yeah, so fruity side of thing then, if you go toward the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a wee bit of that more pungent passion fruity note, a wee bit of that more pungent passion fruity note from the that'll be from the Citra in this case. Then as you move further forward, it mellows out a little bit, becomes more mango-like, and of course there are wee tiny notes of like apricot and stuff like that in there, but mainly it's a big, pardon me, wet, juicy mango note that you get. And then as you go into the front half of that front third of your palate, it's got a really nice kind of juicy, it really has a nice juicy tangerine quality to it. So I really like how that goes together in this one. So yeah, on the front tippy, as you move towards the kind of front tip of your tongue as well, you do get a wee bit of that more. The orangey notes, obviously, the tangerine notes are coming from the mosaic, but as you go to the front tip of your tongue, you get a little bit more of that lemon limey quality from the Citra too, which I really like. Yeah, it's interesting, this one. This beer, when you see Citra and mosaic, you expect certain things from it, and it really delivers on that. And the fruity side of the beer is a little bit wetter, like a West Coaster, but it is, this one, as I say, the malt, the golden promise really just makes it feel more like a New England in these days for me. But it does, at the same time you've got the Columbus, so there are a bit of New England. There are some New England qualities to this, but there's also some West Coasty ones. But this beer, I don't remember it being like this. I remember trying it with Jesse because he insisted that we have this one, and it was a really, it was a nice big West Coast. I'm sure it was at the time. It was a nice big West Coasty one. It had, I don't know if it. The thing that I'm wondering is if it was just a single malt one, if it might have had a few other malts in it as well. Because I do remember the malt base being a little bit more oily than it is now. But yeah, and I think even when I tried it with Peter, I'm not 100% sure that this one was as it is now. So yeah, I'd be very curious to hear from Amager Bryghus exactly what, if they have changed the recipe on this one. But regardless, it is still it's a nice beer, and it is worth trying, as it is too. But yeah, I think we can round off the tasting there and just round off the review overall with the mouthfeel of this one. So for me, it's definitely a kind of mid-bodied beer. The carbonation is quite smooth in this one. It's actually quite a light, wet, clean beer, if that makes sense. It leans towards the wet side of the mouthfeel, so that's pretty good. But in terms of IBUs, what would we say about this? Yeah, I think it has got a wee bit more IBU to it. I could see this one being about 50 IBU, maybe 60 at a push. And you do get the Columbus coming out of it, it says. But yeah, nice 50-60 IBUs. Malt base is really nice and smooth. There's a little bit of sweetness to it, as we said as well, but it's a single malt, so you kind of expect that's kind of a bready note you get out of this one, just a wee touch of sweetness on top. Then you've got that lovely little juicy, fruity character to it as well. And the fruits are a little bit more wet, like the West Coast IPAs were back in the day. So yeah, a really nice beer, this one. But as I say, I'm convinced that this recipe the recipe they're using for this isn't the same as the original one that they did, but it could just be me going crazy, which I'm getting older, so that's likely to happen, and I'm Scottish too, so it's in the genes. But yeah, that's another story. But as I say, this one, very nice beer, definitely worth trying, but really not what I expected. Sometimes you get reviews like this that just kind of throw you off a little bit. So yeah, this has definitely been one of those. But a very, very nice beer, up to the standards I would expect of Amager Bryghus, and I know that Surly are very respected as well, so it's probably up to their standards too. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. So yeah, this is the Todd the Axeman, a 6.5% IPA of some description. I'm not sure exactly what type of IPA we can say this one is, but a very nice beer from Amager Bryghus in Copenhagen in Denmark, and Surly Brewing Company, named after their head brewer, of course, Todd Haug, from Minneapolis, Minnesota in the US. Thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Amager Bryghus and from Surly Brewing Company, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point soon. Check out my social media, check out their social medias, and we'll see you very soon. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.